Hi, I'm Jason Sullivan of Rathbone Group, and this is on subrogation. This video is going to discuss diminished value. First, what is diminished value? That's the difference in value of your vehicle from before a collision and after the collision, but after it's been repaired. Simply put, if you have a $20,000 vehicle and someone was willing to pay you $20,000 for it, and then they find out that 2 years ago it had been in a rear-end collision and had had some repairs done, now they're only offering to pay you $18,000. That difference between the $20,000 and the $18,000 would be the diminished value. If you have a diminished value claim, you may be wondering how it's calculated. And a lot of times you're not going to have that easy case where there was an offer on your vehicle and now someone is offering you less. You may not want to sell your vehicle so it's not out on the market, or you're just not able to find that amount. Insurance companies, when they're assessing a diminished value claim, will frequently use a formula similar to what we're going to go through now. First, you figure out what the actual cash value is. You might be familiar with Kelley Blue Book or NADA or any of the other value source resources that are out there. That will determine how much your vehicle is worth based on the age of the vehicle, how many miles it has, and the condition, whether it's good, bad, fair, excellent, whatever it may be. Once you have that, insurance companies will frequently then use a percentage to cap the amount of diminished value that can be awarded. Let's say it's 10% in this case. So if we go back to the $20,000 vehicle, 10% of that would be $2,000. So the maximum diminished value that would be paid out would be $2,000. Further, insurance companies often use multipliers to then bring down that diminished value. And they're looking at factors of the vehicle that are going to make likely that the full diminished value would not be awarded. The first would be a severity of the impact or damage. The multiplier will go from 0 to 1, with a severe structural frame damage being a 1 and very little damage, maybe cosmetic damage, being down to a 0. If it's at a 1, you're going to get the full diminished value. If it's at 0, it's going to wipe it out completely. They also may use a formula to reduce it based on the mileage of the vehicle. Same structure, a low mileage vehicle is going to be at a 1, and a high mileage vehicle is going to go down and down and down until eventually it reaches 0. At a 0 point, there's going to be no diminished value awarded. So let's just run through a quick formula. Take the $20,000 vehicle, a 10% cap, so we're at $2,000. Now we have a high severe damage on the vehicle, so we're going to give it a multiplier of 1. So your diminished value is going to stay at 2,000. But this is an older vehicle with a whole bunch of miles on it, so we're going to take it down to 0.25. That's going to leave you with a $500 diminished value claim. It can get a little bit confusing under the law, though, whether or not you're allowed to recover diminished value. If you are an individual who has a car and are wondering if you have a diminished value claim, that's really going to look to what state you're in and what your insurance policy covers. Not all states require insurance companies to cover diminished value, and not all policies cover diminished value. So you really need to know what your policy says to see if you're entitled to diminished value. If you have a subrogation claim or you would like to seek the damages from the third party, then you need to know whether under tort law, the state you're in is going to hold the at-fault party responsible for diminished value. There's a little over a dozen states that do award diminished value, so you need to know whether or not the tortfeasor in that state can be held responsible. Indiana actually has a really good case that makes this distinction as to whether or not an insured is entitled to the diminished value from their insurance company, or whether a third party can be held liable for diminished value damages. In that case, it's Allgood versus Meridian Security Insurance. And the Indiana Supreme Court set forth, we had a case where an insured was suing their own insurance company, claiming that their policy covered diminished value. The court first looked and said, this is not a matter of tort. This is not a matter of making the insured whole or allowing them to recoup all of their damages. Rather, this is a contract issue between the insurance company and their insured, and the court looked at the policy language and determined, no, under this policy, there's no obligation for the insurance company to pay diminished value. That was true even though under Indiana law, a third-party tortfeasor can be held liable for diminished value. So in that case, had the insurer paid the diminished value claim to their insured because it was owed under the policy, they could have turned around and subrogated that against the at-fault party. So for diminished value, you want to make sure you're looking at case law that applies to your specific situation. If you have to pay out diminished value, it may not be the case that you can recover it from a third-party tortfeasor. If you're an insured, just because your state allows recovery of diminished value from a third-party tortfeasor doesn't mean your insurance policy covers it. So you need to make sure all things line up for whatever case you're pursuing. For On Subrogation, I'm Jason Sullivan, and that's the long and short of it.